How does someone get a six-pack in the most effective way?
All right.
Besides the kitchen.
Okay, so 2 things. You named one of them. You got to be lean enough. If you're not lean enough, then it doesn't matter. And number 2,
most of it.
And number 2, you have to build your abs. You have to build.
It's a muscle.
It's like your biceps or your lats or your quads. Like if you get them to build, they're going to be more visible. So doing 100 reps is not going to build your abs. Just like 100 reps in my biceps curls aren't going to build my biceps. You have to get them strong. So do things in the 8 to 12 rep range with good control, with good contraction, full extension, where you're developing the muscles of your abs. And then as they develop, you'll see them.
Okay, so yes, so now Mind Pump, the whole crew is on my podcast.
Is this the first time all of us have been on?
Yes, I was going to say, I've had Adam on, I've had Sal a few times, I've never had Justin, I've never had Doug, but now I have all 4 of you.
Yeah.
Do you remember whose episode did the best out of all of us?
No, I don't. I don't remember.
She does. She just plays it.
Thing.
Although, when are you coming back, Adam? No, I'm joking. I'm just joking. I'm just joking. We get a little bit, we get some great, Sal is great for education and stats and the science. Your Adam's great for the
Everything
human stories, the business angle. Justin, I'm not 100% sure yet. We're going to find out today.
Listen to the show one of these days.
Yeah, well, listen. What did you say?
So you'll listen to our show
one of these days, and then I'll figure it out.
Explain myself.
And Doug, you're not really going to be on, right? You're just in the background today.
I'm just here.
Yeah, you're just here, kind of just
making
doing
sure
your
things don't go out of control.
Basically, just make sure that my microphone doesn't become flaccid again.
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate it.
Helpful with that.
I appreciate it.
He's the microphone fluffer.
Yes, he really is. He does a good job at it too. It's great.
He loves it.
Don't get rid of him.
Very well.
Don't get rid of him. Okay, I'm going to start with one very basic question, what I think is really important, because this is, you guys are like the go-to fitness guys on the planet, especially in the podcast space. With training, I want to ask, how can you tell, because I talk about this all the time with my friends and I get super annoyed when I go to the gym and see this. How do you know if someone's a good trainer or a bad trainer? And what do people look for when they're trying to find a personal trainer?
Ooh, I like
That's
that.
a great question.
That is a great
I can
question.
give you
you.
red flags that'll tell you they're not a good trainer. I could list a few of those for you. Like
I want you to list what the red flags are, but I also want you to list like what people should look for.
Yes.
Yeah.
Now, red flags are good because you can see red flags early on.
Yeah.
Okay. So the first one is when you meet with them to do an assessment. If they don't do an assessment, if they just take you and train you, which would be akin to taking your car to the mechanic and him or her not seeing and doing a diagnostic test. So if the trainer's like, oh, come with me, I'm just going to take you through a workout, not a good trainer. The next one is that you can't move the next day. If a trainer beats the crap out of you and you feel like you survived your workout, that's also a red flag. And then the obvious ones are they're not watching your technique or your form, they're paying attention to other people, or they're distracted while you're trying to work out. Like those are very, very easy red flags. And if you meet with a trainer first time and they're not doing an assessment, a proper assessment, go the other way.
Yeah, I think attention to detail is how you like the good ones, right? A really good trainer, the entire time that a client is performing a movement, say like a squat, is constantly moving around and assessing the client and giving them feedback. Oh, great job, Jen. Keep your head up like that, Jen. Oh, nice. Oh, your left knee's caving in a little bit. Like they are coaching every bit of the movement and they're constantly observing you as if everything else in the gym is just gone away. It's just you and I training together, and I'm not distracted by the cute girl doing deadlifts over here, or my buddy and then sports TV is going over here.
Or
it's
their
like
phone.
Right, or their phone.
Yeah, that would be a huge red flag. Is a phone out. That's like.
By the way, that's my biggest pet peeve because I observe all these trainers at the gym and 99% of them are on their phone.
Oh. Yeah.
They're not paying attention to their client at all. Like to me, that's like the number one red flag.
This is a generational thing because when I managed clubs, my trainers had to keep all their phones in my desk.
It was Starbucks that was
such a good idea.
Yeah, that was part of when you came in to work. You kept your phone stayed in my top drawer, and that you just couldn't even have your phone on the floor. There was no reason for you to have your phone on the floor. You had your clipboard, things like that for taking notes and things. There's no reason for you to have a cell phone on the floor.
A trainer should make you feel like you can tell them anything, like you're not going to be judged,
right?
And like they're authentic. You need to have a good relationship with your trainer not your best friend type of relationship, but a relationship where you feel like you could go to them and be like, man, I screwed up, or man, my diet wasn't good, or man, this is real tough for me, and not feel afraid that they're gonna make you feel bad, they're gonna make you feel like you're failing or whatever, because you're trying to. A good trainer will really coach you to develop a good relationship with fitness that sticks with you for the rest of your life.
You gotta be careful about that. I'm sorry, Adam. I'm gonna say one thing, and then it's your turn. That I think that a lot of times what happens though, trainers become the therapist only, and so people start they see their trainer not because they work out, but because they talk to them.
Yeah.
And so half the time you're not even working out or exercising. You're standing there just like telling them what's going on in your life, and they're just like gabbing back and forth.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm glad you said
There's
that.
an extreme example of that.
There
for
is.
sure.
There is, but there's a balance, and really experienced trainers know that sometimes just to get the person there, that they're going to do a couple exercises and they need to just vent a little bit, and that's okay because it's better than them not being there.
Right, not showing up.
Yes, because you can push and you can motivate, but what you don't want to do is blow them out and have them not want to come back. That's a big mistake I made a lot as an early trainer, where I was like, no, you're going to do it my way. And I thought I did a great job, and I ended up getting people to not want to come back. So it's better to have that beginner, and you often see this when people have a challenging relationship with health or fitness, right? People who just, the gym is uncomfortable to them. They've never been able to be consistent. And so the number one priority of a good trainer is to help them develop this good relationship with the gym. And if that means you're going to come in and do 2 exercises, and I'm going to hear and talk with you a little bit while in between, then that's okay, because it's chess, it's not checkers. That's what a good trainer understands. It's like, this is a long game. I'm not trying to get you to lose 30 pounds in 60 days and then gain it back. I'm trying to get you to figure this out for the rest of your life. And with a lot of beginners, the first step is feeling like they belong in the gym.
Yeah. There's an even bigger indicator that I know for sure we'd all agree on, because we've said it before, and I love that we can do this even on the podcast. So we've had many trainers come on this show over the course of 10 years. And one of the ways all of us know right away how good that trainer is the way they communicate when you ask them a question that's related to nutrition or exercise science or something. And the first word that comes out of their mouth is depends. If your trainer, when you ask them a direct question, should I eat this? Should I do this exercise? What's the best if you ask a direct question to your trainer and the first words out of their mouth is depends before they answer, you know you've got a good trainer. Because a good trainer like that will always communicate the nuances of every question. Yeah. There is no for sure this is always the best or this is the way to do things. It always depends. It always depends on the individual, and depends on what you've done before, and depends on other variables. And so a really good coach and trainer knows the science, knows the research, but also understands all the other variables and nuances. And so when you ask them a direct question about anything related to working out or nutrition, they respond with depends first.
That's a great point.
Yeah, another characteristic for, a good trainer to spot out, like, especially if you've already started to work with them, is that, do I want to approach them to come help me through some pain or help me through some challenge? Whereas, typically, you want to avoid the session. You want to cancel the session. You want to, take a break, take a rest. Like, all these are indications that, that trainer is probably not a great fit, is pretty intensity driven, is, coaching you through motivation purely, is not educating you on the fact that, there's adjustments that need to be made. There's flexibility that we need to apply here to help, provide answers. And also, too, to be a maven, if he doesn't have the answers, to go out source and point you in the direction of a doctor, a physical therapist, somebody else to get involved. So it's not solely dependent on you.
Yeah, like if you're like, oh man, my knee hurts a little bit, I'm going to cancel my session. Versus, oh, my knee hurts a little bit, I'm going to go see my trainer because they know how to help me. Like, that's a really good trainer.
That's a good trainer. That's so interesting, because I think the thought or the psychology for a lot of trainers is like, if I don't kill them, right?
That's terrible.
Then that I'm not a good trainer. And so they don't adapt. All they do is like heavy load when your body's not even able to heavy load. Like, oh no, you have to do you got to squat 200. Well, my body can't even squat 10, never mind 200. Yeah. The other thing I wanted to say is, what about having a trainer that's not in shape, who looks like they're not in shape, or who's fat? is that any indicator? Because psychologically also
Depends.
It depends. Right?
Depends. And it depends.
There you go. Good trainer, Adam.
Depends on where they're coming from.
Right.
So there's a possibility, and I've had trainers like this that have worked for me that are out of shape still, but they've lost 60 pounds of their 100 to go. And it's changed their life, and they're in the middle of this journey.
Yep.
That trainer sometimes is incredible because they're going through it, and a lot of clients will relate to that trainer. And if that trainer can share what it's been like for them, that can be a very problem. Now, a trainer who's just been out of shape their whole life and isn't going anywhere or hasn't come from somewhere from that was way less or way more unhealthy, then there's a different story. Then it looks like you can't follow your own advice, or you're a walking billboard for yourself. And so it really depends on where that trainer is currently in their own journey on whether I would make the conclusion that, because they're overweight, they're not good.
Well, I think somewhere in between, right? Because I think some people, they were really fit and then they let themselves potentially go. And so therefore they don't look the same as they used to look. But it could be because of hormones. It could be because of all sorts of an injury.
Well, you
There's
don't
lots
want
of things.
You don't want a trainer that doesn't practice what they preach.
Right.
That's just a hypocrite. Okay. But you also, and this is just the truth. I mean, I could ask, look, we've all managed trainers. We've all run teams of trainers. Some of the worst trainers were the ripped ones.
Yep, that's what I was going to say.
So body obsessed trainers, they're gonna spill that over onto you. So you want one that practices what they preach. That's true, but looking at a trainer and saying that's the rippedest, fittest looking trainer, that's the one I want to hire. It's a terrible metric. It's a terrible. Some of the best trainers I know look relatively fit, but they're not like
not ripped.
No, they're not super shredded. No, ripped individuals, typically not.
No, I think so too. I think the people I've noticed who are who are ripped, super shredded, are the worst. They're very self-obsessed.
Yes.
They train themselves really well, but they have no idea how to train somebody else because they don't. Number one, they don't care.
Yeah.
Right. That's the first thing. They're much more about themselves than the other person. And it could be because they're starving themselves, they're taking a bunch of drugs, they could be doing all sorts of things. I think there's a misconception. I think a lot of times the best trainers I've ever seen are the ones who just look normal. They're not completely out of shape. They're not completely ripped. They're normal looking because they're more balanced. They've done the extreme stuff, but they're not there anymore in their life, and they've had the background, they have the education, they have the research. I think it's really short-sighted to only pick a trainer based on what they look like because of all the other, you said, the nuance and other other things that come with it.
You don't want someone with active raging body dysmorphia to be your trainer,
right?
Because what you're going to hear is communication through that, and what it's going to sound like is hype, motivation, and discipline. That's what it sounds like. You can do this. Oh, you don't have time. You got 24 hours. Everybody got the same 24 hours in every day, and they're going to hype you and they're going to hammer you, and it feels good when you're motivated. It feels good when you first get started, but it's a absolute disaster when that motivation wears off. A good sign of a good trainer is, do you want to see them? Do you like to show up to work out regardless of how you feel? Whether you're motivated, unmotivated, tired, sad, happy, whatever, is this a person that you want to go meet with to work out? And does the workout change depending on how you feel for the day? In other words, I'm tired. Man, they're going to make me feel so much better. I'm in pain. They're going to help me take my pain away. I'm hyped. I'm going to kick ass today. That's the kind of trainer you want. There were workouts that I had that involved me walking with my client outside because they showed up knowing they could trust me, knowing oh man, I was so stressed out. Work was absolutely terrible. I had terrible sleep last night. I'm so happy I'm here. And I'm looking at them and they're drained and I could see the stress on their face. I'm like, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go for a walk.
Do you think sometimes, though, it's important to change trainers because, everybody gets complacent, right? You see someone too long, it's like a therapist. It's like anything, right? You just end up people don't try as hard. They don't put the same effort and scrutiny in because it's you've been doing it for so long. Sometimes it's a good idea to mix things up a little bit. You get different perspective, you get different exercises. What do you think?
Let me tell you this. So you ask us, right? We train people for 2 decades, okay? I will say, we've talked about this on the podcast many times. we weren't great until probably 8 to 10 years into our careers. Okay. And I was selling training like crazy early days. But the back half of my career, I had clients most of my clients didn't leave.
Yeah.
They'd hire me and they'd be with me for, I had
Lifers.
I had clients with me for 9-10 years. 9 a.m. Monday mornings, same time for 9 years, they showed up. So when you're with a good coach or a good trainer, you probably never want to leave.
Yeah, that good coach or trainer can be a chameleon and give you what you need at whatever period of your life you're in. So like to the point you're making, like, because there is value in changing things up and getting different perspectives.
They'll do that.
A really good trainer should be able to give you that. A really good trainer, like if, let's say you and I have been training for a year or two, and when we first met, you had these very specific goals, and maybe you and I have already achieved it, or we've been focused on that for a long time. I might get you to shift your focus. Like, hey, you know what, Jen? We're always so focused on this. Like, what do you think if we go after this for a while? Like, when was the last time you tried to increase your vertical or work on how fast you could, like, I think that would be really good for you. And I think it'd be healthy. And you've told me these other things about your life that are important to you. I can see how that will help that. Like, why don't we put together a program where we focus on that for a while? And you'll be like, yeah, that sounds great. Like a good trainer will give you what you could potentially get in that novelty of a different trainer if they're really good. If they're really good, they don't just train the same way to that same person forever. They know how to move that client in and out of different modalities and goals to give you that fresh feeling of what it's like to train with almost like a different person.
It's so funny that you asked us this question, Jen, because this is an area we're moving into. So
I know.
So if you were to talking about the good trainer, the great trainers, like we're trying to highlight here, the difference between a great trainer and an okay trainer is like the difference between the best player in the NBA and the best high school basketball player. Okay, that's how big of a gap there is between the great trainers and all the okay trainers. They're not even the same species. So different. They're so much more effective. They're able to get the average person who has a fail rate of 90% when it comes to fitness to turning them into lifelong fitness enthusiasts, okay? That is not easy. That's hard. That's what the great trainers are really good at doing. And what we're doing now, we actually have trainers that work for us now. Now we've put together a course for coaches and trainers that teach them how to build their business. But the goal behind all of that was there is no ethos or standard or towel of trainers. There is no like you said, you're asking us questions because here's what happens to a lot of your listeners. How do I know? How do I know who they are? Like what?
It's a common experience.
That's right.
Yeah, people have.
The barrier to entry is so low, right? Yeah. Anybody can technically become a trainer, right? You take a course.
Yep, you're
certified. And then you're good to go. And that's the problem. And with social media, if you look good and you tout all this
suddenly
like
you're
fitness,
a coach.
you tout some like, jibber jabber about like fitness routines and nutrition, people believe you. So then they become a coach and they buy their online programs. And yet they know nothing about nothing.
Right.
Yeah.
Right?
Right.
Which, by the way, is even more dangerous, right? Because that's how you get injured, and that's how you don't stay on a plan if it's too easy, too hard, it's not adaptable, whatever the thing is. Which is why I think it's amazing. You guys, though, have done a good job. Like I was just saying to you offline, you guys have done a spectacular job of taking something that you're good at and then growing it into literally like an empire. It's amazing. Adam, like you and I talk about this all the time because I was just telling you, I was doing this thing the other day, and I was using you as an example, right? Because fitness to me is a microcosm of life, right? Because you're taught and you learn so many fundamental skills, like the discipline, delayed gratification, patience, all the things, right? And if you take those, it's great for business. It's great for all these things. And you guys have built an incredible business with so many verticals. Now you're building the vertical of like training. Like how, like, can you walk me through the evolution of like how this became, like you guys were just trainers, again, just trainers at a gym, right? Like doing your thing, come together, you do a podcast. How did the Mind Pump podcast turn into such an empire?
Let me start before Emperor of the Empire Adam goes there.
Empire Adam.
If it's an empire,
Emperor of the Empire.
Adam is definitely the business genius and savant. But I will say this, and I think I can say this confidently. what we learned training lots and lots and lots of people over 20 years, what we learned that helped us be successful with our clients as defined by not just us building a business, but actually getting people healthy and helping them develop a relationship with it where they're still doing it. Like all the clients that we don't train anymore, we're still in contact with, they're still consistent. They're still doing it. They're still eating right. They're still exercising. These are all general everyday people. They were not fitness fanatics. They're still not fitness fanatics, but they've developed these relationships through our coaching that it took trial and error of decades of us to learn.
Wow.
I can say this with full confidence. What you hear us communicate and how we run the business, not the business side, but the purpose behind the business side was based off of what we learned there. And so what you often hear people say is how authentic we are and what we say. And it was learned by training clients. Now the ins and outs of the business, that's a different conversation. But sticking to those fundamentals of what we learned that works with people and how we communicate, that's why the podcast itself has done really well.
I think the fundamentals go deeper than that because I think your personal values are the fundamentals that grew the business, in my opinion. This is just me being the outsider. You guys have you've been very true blue to what you believe and what you don't. Like we'll say all the time, I'm always like, oh, what do you think of this thing? Do you want to work with this one? What do you think of that one? And you guys say no more than you say yes.
Yeah.
And I think that word no has served you exceptionally well in growing a business that have true, not just followers, but people who trust you, number one, who are engaged by your trust. They're engaged by you in a real way, authentic way, because they know they can trust you. And so that's how your audience has really grown from the outside looking in.
Yeah.
I'm going to oversimplify it, but I do think it's so true, and it is along the lines of what kind of Sal is alluding to.
Not me.
No, you both are in a sense, right? Because I do think what you're saying to me is why I think the four of us work so well. The fact that our values align so much is what has made this stay together for so long. If we had different values, I don't think we would have ever been able to stick through this. But I also think that it's not that special. It's that we did something, and maybe this is the advantage of being older and that we've been in this profession for a long time, but we live in this era with social media of this instant gratification where so many people you have a young kid who sees what Mind Pump is doing and goes, oh, I want to go do that. Well, what you don't take into consideration is the 20 years of becoming a master at our craft, the 8 years of not being very good and then being kind of good and then being really good and then being great at what we do. That process is the most important. And we all did it already. We did that before we turned these mics on. And so what you hear is three guys that have been training for a combined 60 plus years together of training real people and going through the process of sucking, then getting a little bit better, then getting good, then becoming great. And because we've always led with those same principles in every other aspect and every leg of this business of, listen, what we don't know, I don't know anything about Bitcoin. I don't know anything about, anything to do with software. And that's so not my space. But we know fitness really, really well. And all aspects of it, from supplements to personal training, even to now fitness and podcast world. We know that so well. And what we've led with is, can we go out and provide more value than anybody else that's competing with us? And I think all of us have always thought we could. We always believe that we've put the work in to be great at our craft and that we're just going to go and lead by giving so much of this value to other people, and then the business will happen. And that's how every leg of this business has happened, is we've led with this idea of giving first, teaching others what we've learned over all these years, and then we allow the business to tell us what's next. The reason why we're in the training side is we've come to this point, this crossroad in the business where we have so many people asking us, do you have a list of trainers that you trust? Or who should we personal train with? Or just like the questions you're asking right now, we've been asked that so much. It's like, listen, there is a business for us right here to happen. If we take the time to hire correctly, train and develop good coaches and trainers underneath us. We have a business of training people both virtually and in person waiting for us to happen. But we had to do the other stuff first.
Yeah.
And we had to lead with all that. And then the consumer told us what's next.
Right. So you also stayed true to what your wheelhouse is. You're not trying to venture out of your wheelhouse. You're just taking your wheelhouse and you're adding on.
Totally.
Because this are all the things that you all know really
well.
The trading thing, to me, I'm surprised it took this long. It's like a no-brainer, right? Like that's what your core competence was. Like you all were really good trainers. I'm surprised it took this long to do it. Why?
Well, because first off, we have so much respect for good trainers and coaches, and so much goes into producing good trainers and coaches that it's a monster.
It is a monster.
So like
building and
It's
developing.
it won't be nowhere near as profitable as all the other parts.
And I'll give you an example. Okay, we obviously have a huge podcast, millions of downloads. Do you know how many leads of potential clients we can produce in an episode? Tremendous amounts.
Yeah.
Do you know how many trainers we have on board right now on staff? 2.
Yeah.
Do you know why?
They're hard to find.
No.
Oh.
No, I could put out a thing. I could hire 50 trainers tomorrow.
Good ones, though.
Yeah.
Yes, of course.
We are not going to mess around, and we're going to slow it down as much as possible because we don't want anybody representing Mind Pump that isn't going to deliver.
We've seen mistakes already through these other brands that have let it get away from them. The quality control has, gone haywire, and then forever that brand is now known for this less quality trainer that they're producing in gyms, and so it's like for us, it's really just to sit back and make sure we pay attention to all these details. We develop these trainers to become great, so it's a reflection of everything we've talked about because we've built so much trust with our audience, and we really hold that tight and dear to us because if we lose that, really our whole business implodes.
Yeah.
We have the luxury to do what they're both saying because we did the other thing first.
That's right.
Yeah.
So this would be like, if, let's say we came out the gates and started personal trainer with the others, we'd be put in a very interesting, like when we first started, when we hired Kyle, trained him up for over a year and a half, and then we hired the next trainer and then the next trainer. Like that has been such a slow process that we actually have lost money. We're making money and we're profitable now. But if you count up all the hours and money and investing into people we did before we actually started collecting money, we were in the red because we didn't come out just trying to sell and make money right away. It's like, hey, let's make sure we hire the right person who we know is going to have to oversee that because we don't have the time to fully oversee that. So we got to make sure we build that person has got to have the right character, got to have this right values.
Who's
and more.
Kyle, the guy?
Kyle's the head trainer.
Yeah.
So it was like, and it took us a long time to get somebody who we thought, okay,
Exceptional individual.
Yeah, this kid has got as high of integrity as all of us. Yep. He's incredibly loyal. He's on brand. It's like, okay, we have that person in place. Okay, now and we had that luxury of, if we didn't have a business that was already paying all the bills and covering everything, we wouldn't have been able to do that. So we waited to do a business that isn't as high of profitability and doesn't have as high as margins as the other parts of the business, so we could take our time and we didn't have to rush.
Okay, but how about like your online programs?
Yeah.
That's like the bread and butter. A lot of what you do, right?
That's what built this.
That's what built this whole. That was the beginning of it. Besides the podcast, the empire was really starting to take off when you built out the maps, right?
Yeah.
Right.
But we had maps for a year before we didn't sell anything for a year.
But But then you did maps and it crushed.
Yeah.
So why then are you worried that the training business, the online business, the in-person business will basically eat into the maps business?
No, it'll feed
they're
into
mutually
together
beneficial.
so well.
Okay.
Yeah, no,
mutually beneficial.
Maps programs are written for a general audience. It's a low ticket item. It's going to feed the training.
Right, so
business, if
people
anything.
can do the online. They don't that's not hands on. Obviously, it's
Yeah.
just you buy the program
Right.
and like everything's in there.
Yeah.
Then you have personal training is a whole different thing.
Yeah.
But the virtual training, can they use?
Of course.
The trainers will use all the programs.
Eventually, we're going to pair
That's
that
what I wanted
together.
to ask.
Yeah.
Okay, so they're using the maps programs to train the clients.
But they're individualized too, right? So I can create the best digital program for, moms who want to be fit.
You have the mommy program.
We do, right?
Yeah.
But it's still general, right? If a mom hires me,
Right.
Now I'm looking at an individual human, and I can individualize
Adjust
it.
exercise.
It just-
and
it made-
No
protocol.
program we create will ever be better than a good coach.
It made perfect sense to go in the training. I mean, we on average we do almost 240 programs a day, right? MAPS programs are sold all over the world every day.
240. How
200
much is each one sold for?
$50 to $100 depending on the sale or whatever it is.
God.
Okay.
I want a loan from you guys.
So every day that's happening.
Yeah.
Now we have an incredible customer service team on the back end that when somebody emails in or goes to our chat and has a question about the program or exercise or anything like that they're communicating. And so we've been doing that for years. So for years, we've been collecting all this data on all these 200 plus people that buy every single day.
Wow, that's a
who
lot.
just wants to do it themselves? What kind of questions are they asking? And there's a large enough percentage of people that are like, man, I wish I had somebody to help me through this process. Well, now we have that. But we wouldn't have done that if we didn't collect that stuff first, though.
Yeah.
First was let's go first do this, go prove that there's something there, and then again allow the customer to tell us what's the next business to be made.
Who built the programs? All of you, or
Sal did the original one.
I wrote
did
the
the
original one
originals? Okay.
before we started the podcast. Doug and I were business partners. He was my client initially, and we created MAPS Anabolic, shot it, did the whole thing. Then we started the podcast. So it was already there. MAPS Anabolic was there, but we didn't sell it for a year. It wasn't until a year of doing podcasting, building an audience and trust and authority that we then did our first program launch.
what's the is it 50-50 split women? What's the men versus?
We're almost split right down the middle.
Yeah.
Pretty close.
'Cause
Different platforms are different. Like YouTube is like a high 70% guys are on YouTube compared to girls.
Although that's a lot of women watching our YouTube channel. If you look at how many men in general are on YouTube.
Oh yeah, because
as well.
YouTube is skewed 80-20 or more
Yeah.
in the general.
We have a huge female audience, which is I find I get a lot of pride in that. Considering it's three, they like to call us three bros.
Yeah. You know what's really funny, actually? I know more women who listen to you than men.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Isn't that funny?
Oh, I mean, I think our female audience is the most loyal and best
buyers.
customers for sure.
Yeah. That's
Dudes
amazing.
don't ask for directions.
Yeah, exactly. But women do.
yeah.
I have a friend of mine who's
All the dudes are all the freeloaders.
Yeah,
they are.
yeah, exactly. I know a couple of women. One in particular who does your map. She loves your program, and she got ripped from your program.
That's awesome.
Yeah, it was really actually. I was like,
So,
wow.
We have 27 of them,
here's
so-
an important thing to know, and this is so I got to see maps long before Mind Pump happened. Sal sent it over for me to see it, and I was at a place in my career that when I saw what he had written, I already, without even meeting him or getting to really know him yet, because I didn't know him very well at all, I knew how brilliant of a trainer he was, and I went, okay, this whole conversation started on how do you know a good trainer?
Yeah.
I knew by the way he wrote a program that he knew his shit. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I want to meet this guy. I want to get in the same room as he is. And so we got together. And so it does matter too, all the experience, the fact that we started this podcast with all this free information, not asking for anything. And then when the people started, when we started to sell mass programs was after every guy was coming to work going, oh my God, somebody's trying to donate money to me. Have you ever heard of a Patreon? People are telling us to start a Patreon. People are asking to buy stuff. We were literally getting people trying to give us money because they had felt that we'd given them so much value from the podcast. Then it was like, now it's time to show them what MAPS is.
Right.
And because I knew, and so did the other guys know how good MAPS was, we knew it was going to be very effective. We knew that when they got in the hands, especially of the female client, because one of the things that when you're a trainer, one of the first go-to moves when you get good at helping your female clients, and we got to remember, we go back 20 years. So this is a little bit different today for the listener than it was
A
20
lot of
years.
stuff is accepted now.
Yeah.
That when we
Women did not train 5x5 training. Women did not deadlift and squat heavy weight.
Not at all.
No, 20 years ago, that didn't happen.
nothing under
And
5
that's-
reps.
So
Yeah.
phase 1 of MAPS Anabolic is 5x5 heavy squatting and deadlifting in it. And I knew when Sal put that in that program, I was like, oh, one, I already know that our most common client is middle-aged women. And I know that I had learned by this time in my career that when I take a woman through a traditional block of 5x5 training, I blow her mind. She puts on muscle, her butt gets tighter, she leans out, she's eating more, and I always blow her. And so his first phase of MAPS Anabolic was designed that way. And I'm like, oh, this is brilliant. These girls are going to get on this within 1 month to 2 months. It's going to blow their mind, and then they'll forever be bought into us. So that's exactly what happened. We release MAPS. It goes out to the public. We sell a few hundred of them together, and all the people call back, oh my God, I've never trained this few a days. Oh my God, I've never trained like this and I've seen this much. And then here come and then it just grew off of referrals. We didn't advertise back then. We didn't have any sort of marketing sales funnel besides the podcast. And it was purely off of us giving free information, getting people to start that mass programs, and then them blowing their minds by the results.
Wow.
And because of that, we were allowed to do all the other things.
You know what's interesting? Because Sal, the people are still really stuck. A lot of women are still stuck in their head that if they do hardcore, heavy strength training, they're gonna be bulky. They're gonna have a lot of mass. So it's the whole cardio versus strength thing, right? I still feel that that's still something that a lot of women struggle with, right? How do you have any advice on how to kind of get women over that hump to doing more strength training?
Yeah, you know what's funny is that this conversation is so much more accepted today. When we were having this conversation just 10 years ago on the podcast, it was like controversial, blowing people's minds. I see women lifting weights all the time now. It's the fastest growing demographic of people who strength train because they're figuring this out. But muscle is fat burning machinery. It's hard to build muscle. So and muscle is very dense and it looks good. So if you lose 10 pounds of body fat and replace it with 10 pounds of muscle, which by the way, gaining 10 pounds of muscle, very difficult for 99.9% of women. But let's just say you did that, you weigh the same on the scale, you look radically different.
Yeah.
You're smaller. Muscle takes up less space than body fat on a pound for pound basis, something almost like a quarter less space.
It's shaped different. It looks better on your body.
And it goes to different places and it's firm and it feels good. And you're burning more calories, you're leaner with less work and your hormones are working better. And when women do it and they do it right, not the wrong way, right? Because you can do circuits and you can make strength training turn into cardio too. But if you do it right, you're sold. It's like, that's it. This is incredible.
Okay, so what's the right way for a woman to strength train?
Okay, depending on the individual, but generally speaking, you strength train like someone who wants to get strong. So you do a set, you rest for 2 minutes. You do a set, you rest for 2 minutes. Not set, exercise, but you literally just like a strength athlete works out. You do a set, you rest. You do a set.
One of the best things that the average woman who wants to be lean, toned, firm, uses all that vocabulary could do is train like a power lifter.
Yeah.
Like literally one of the best things that she can do that will help her out or head towards that goal. And it's not what you would think. Like that's not the first thing that comes to a woman's mind. Is like, oh, I should train like a power lifter to look like this physique I'm describing. But it's the truth. And a lot of that has to do with how they've been marketed to for so long and all the different classes and circuit training and butt burner and all these gimmicky things that have been sold to women that doesn't move the needle at all when it comes to sculpting and shaping a body, which is again why before I even met Sal, I knew how good of a trainer he was by the way he programmed.
So wait, so how does a power lifter train that women should mimic?
5x5. So the big lift, the big core lifts.
Explain that
So
for people who don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, so you could also train like a bodybuilder or like other strength athletes, but we like power lifter, or he says power lifter, because it's going to place your focus on strength. Okay, so there are some movements that are far more effective than others at shaping the body. Your bench presses, your rows, your squats, your deadlifts, your overhead presses, like your basic compound, what they're known as compound lifts. Those are the ones that are going to give you more bang for your buck than other lifts. For example, getting really good at a barbell squat is going to give you better results than 5 other leg exercises combined. Okay, so way less work, far better results. That's true for all the other exercises that I listed. So focus on those lifts, get strong at them, practice them. In other words, go to the gym, don't beat yourself up, but rather practice those lifts and get good at them, and your body will start to shape. Feed the muscle. In other words, eat a high protein diet. Don't starve yourself. Get stronger in the gym. As you get stronger, usually metabolic rate starts to follow, and then you start to see some fat loss.
Okay, so I want all of you to tell me if you can only do 5 exercises for the rest of your life, what would they be?
He just named it right there. Overhead press, row, bench press, squat, deadlift, those 5.
Yeah.
Do those, I'll take you.
Now that's not perfect because you also want to include rotation, but if I only did 5, you're good.
Those 5 movements paired with a woman hitting her protein intake, the upper end of her protein intake, so 1-to-1 ratio. So however much you weigh, hit that in grams of protein, or how much you want to weigh, right? So if you want to weigh 130 grams of protein. Do those 5 lifts 3 times a week. Just get good at them and get strong. I swear you will.
Yeah.
You'll build one
That's
of the
like
best
80%.
bodies you've ever built.
That's right.
Okay, and you should also keep unloading, shouldn't you?
Well, yeah, get strong. That's what I mean.
Aggressively
When I'm saying
overload.
get strong at them, what I'm communicating is the goal should be to, over time, slowly get stronger and stronger, but
Okay.
which would mean adding more weight to the
Right.
bar.
So you're saying a bench press,
Yeah.
Yep.
a row,
Yeah.
Yep.
a squat,
Yep. A deadlift.
a deadlift,
press.
Overhead press.
overhead press.
Yep. Those 5.
Okay, so do you think that a lunge is overrated?
No.
No.
Lunges is
It's
a
a
squat.
variation of a squat.
Yeah, that's a
Listen,
split.
Oh,
okay.
so now we're talking about we're talking about variations.
Also, remember this. He's
talking about the biggest
You said if
movers,
I only
though.
got 5 exercises, what would the 5 be forever?
Those are the 5. Okay.
I can make a case for all of those being some sort of a unilateral movement too, and we can get into all the nuances.
So
of
that
why,
was my next question.
Yeah, why
For
unilateral, rotational, core stuff is important. Like, okay,
I have a question.
Yeah.
Okay, because I thought so. Our bodies are imbalanced, right? Like I have my right side is much stronger than my left side.
Yeah.
So I was under the school of thought that doing a lot of unilateral, like one side at a time, is way better for
Adjusting
balancing.
imbalances.
Yeah, adjusting imbalances and strengthening my body. Is that not
It
accurate?
is, and I think that that's an important part of the process. What they're describing is the foundation of your strength to build off
The
of.
foundation.
And
Okay.
so as you go back, there's a necessity to go through cycles of unilateral training, or even like including more mobility and other variations of movement. Otherwise, we get too strong in one direction, which for these exercises we listed are all in the sagittal plane. So this is problematic once we get too strong and we encounter things in the real world where you do have, you move with acceleration. You don't train that way. You're going to feel the impact of that. You have something else that sort of slips. You have some kind of lateral shift. And now we have pain and weakness there that's not addressed. So then that creates an injury. But what the basis of it is, you want to get as strong as possible with these foundational lifts.
Got it.
And then we branch from there.
Well, let's change the question a little bit so you understand, so the audience understands why we came at it the way we did. Question remains the same. What will we do? But I've got 8 weeks to prove to you I know what the fuck I'm doing. And if I only got 8 weeks and I want to give you the biggest bang for your buck, it's those 5 movements. Go get strong at it, because I know that lunging, all the other great unilateral movements that have tremendous value and are absolutely going to get implemented in our routine as we continue on. I know that I will show you the greatest change physically and metabolically by doing those 5 lifts first. Then you'll be bought into me like, holy shit, Adam, I can't believe what we've done. Okay, now let me explain to you why we need to incorporate rotational work, why we need to do some lunging and unilateral work. This is, and
So we're talking like this is
simplicity
phase
wins.
1,
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
what you explained.
Yep.
Right.
What's phase 2? What are the next 5 best exercises once you've got your foundation strong?
You know what's funny is so you can add,
reflects
so
our
if you
performance program.
we can go, you can break down the human body into some basic movements. You have squatting, hip hinging, you have pressing both vertically and horizontally, and you have rowing. And I think did I say rotation? Rotation is in
rotation,
there as well.
anti-rotation.
And anti-rotation. So those are like basic human movements. So all exercises can kind of fall in those categories. But essentially what you want to do is you want to train your body to be strong in lots of different planes of movement, and you want to be good at all of those different things. And I didn't even include in there acceleration and deceleration, and so it can get very complicated. And this
As
is what
you
a good
go.
trainer will know.
Yeah, it does.
But if you're the average person, okay, and you're like, hey, I want to do some strength training, and I want to feel pretty fit and strong. Like you just do those 5 lifts, you're doing pretty good.
Let's talk about someone who's not the average. Now, let's say someone's been training for a while.
Yeah.
Right? And they've kind of got the foundation going. What's the next thing that they should be focusing on? Is it rotations? Is it unilateral?
Multiplanar movement.
we have a couple programs in particular, Map Symmetry, which addresses all unilateral work, Map Performance, which is all this like multiplanar rotational type stuff. What we tell the audience and the average person is every year you should run one of those programs every year. And then outside of that, do whatever you want goal-wise. You want to train for OCR, you want to train for a powerlifting meet, you want to train for a bikini competition, train however the hell you want that your heart desires, that you're attracted to or that you get excited about. But just make sure to incorporate one cycle of that to balance you out.
Yeah.
Okay,
And
so-
it
So you
matters,
don't
Jen.
become...
What?
It also matters, Jen, on what you've been doing. Like, okay, so your
It
experience.
depends.
Right.
I mean, it does. Like, your experience. You've been working out for
Do
a
you
while.
have pain that's coming into this whole
I do.
situation?
I need
We
to
gotta
know what
address
you've
it.
been doing.
Okay, but this is the thing, right? Like, a big thing is that girls to have a good booty, blah blah
Yeah.
blah. Is it overrated to do
Hip thrust?
a hip thrust?
No. I mean, hip thrusts, here's why they're good.
It's a great glute exercise.
Yeah, so here's why you'll hear women rave about the hip thrust, or people rave about the hip thrust for building their butt. So I'll go over studies first, but then I'll tell you why hip thrusts for some people are so good to build a butt. So they've done head-to-head studies on comparing the barbell squat, which is a great exercise, to the hip thrust for glute growth. Okay, now if we're talking about overall leg development, if we're talking about overall athletic performance, the squat's going to win. But if we're looking at just butt growth, they're actually tied. They're actually just as good as one another. And yet we have all these people saying that the hip thrust is superior. And here's why. People who struggle to build a butt doing a squat tend to have issues with how their muscles fire while doing the squat. They tend to have issues with connecting to the glutes in a squat. They tend to be, for lack of a better term, quad dominant. So they do squats all the time. Like, my butt's not growing, my quads are growing, my butt's not growing. The hip thrust loads the glutes directly in a shortened position. You feel them, you can connect to them, you can squeeze. So for the woman who squats, who doesn't feel her butt grow at all, it's like, this isn't working for me, the barbell hip thrust is a tremendous exercise for butt development. But all things being equal, the squat outranks the hip thrust. Now, the real answer is, in a routine, you probably want to do both.
Right.
They're both valuable.
Well, before there was a time when none of us hip thrusted our clients because it wasn't a popular lift. They didn't have machines that loaded the plates so you could get into it comfortably. What we would do with a client that Sal's describing that has a hard time feeling her butt when she squats is you would prime her glutes before she goes into a squat. So you do like floor bridges.
which is like a hip thrust just on the floor.
Right. Floor.
So I'd have her do floor bridges to get connected to her ass and have her squeeze. You feel that? Oh yeah, I definitely feel that. Okay, great. Now let's get over here and do squats. Think about that as you squat. And so that's how we would teach that client to get a better connection to her glutes when she squats to improve the glute growth. That was before hip thrust became so popular, and now you have all these great machines for it, and now it's the new hot thing to do.
It's so true. I think everything becomes trendy, right?
Yeah.
And I also, is it true, or is it that a lot of people's bodies are not able to squat, right? Because they can't feel their butt, their glutes aren't firing, and all these other things.
Okay,
is
so
that true?
everybody's body, so long as they don't have any, genetic defects,
Deformity
deformalities, or really bad injuries, everybody's body should be able to squat. Now, the reason why not everybody can squat is that they've lost the ability to squat because they stopped squatting when they were 4. Okay,
Yeah,
so
okay.
if I were to say to you, should everybody be able to walk? Well, yeah, unless they have some kind of genetic issue or injury. Squatting is a fundamental human movement. You watch any 4-year-old sit in a squat, and you'll see that it's a fundamental human movement. We just stopped squatting. We don't squat to do anything anymore. We sit on a toilet to go to the bathroom.
Yeah, that's it.
We used to rest just in a squat. That was
sit
a
in
resting
chairs.
position.
That's a resting position. Most people can't sit in a squat to rest. They've lost the mobility. And your body, if you stop practicing a movement or even a fundamental human movement, your body will forget how to do it. It'll prune the neural networks and forget and get rid of your. So if you took an adult, you took a 12-year-old and you put them in a bed and never had them walk for 10 years and then had them get up, they're not going to be able to walk. They'll have to relearn how to walk, and walking is fundamental. So same thing with squatting.
You're also, this is setting the table for the original conversation of how do we define a good trainer. See, a good trainer takes a client who can't squat right now, and our goal is to get to that point.
Yeah.
So I had a lot of clients, because of course on the podcast we talk about the benefits of squatting so much. I get asked like, well, what if you can't? Or what if I haven't been able to, or I get all this pain? Like, well, I would, as a trainer, I wouldn't take that client and force them to squat if they're feeling pain or they can't do it for whatever reason. But that becomes our goal. Our goal now becomes, okay, you've lost the ability to squat. It is a basic human movement. We should be able to do that. My goal is to get you there. And a really good trainer can assess the way your body moves, because it's normally due to limiting mobility factors. Like you have really poor ankle mobility. So your heels rise up when you squat down and then your knees start to hurt. And it's like, well, that has less to do with you can't squat. It has more to do with you have poor ankle
Joint
mobility.
function.
If I can improve that, then I could get you down into a squat. Or you have somebody who rolls their shoulders and their chest that falls forward. And it's like, if I could get you to sit up properly, like, so assessing the way that person moves, what is limiting them from being able to squat, and then knowing how to unpack that and go work on those things to get to
And
it.
by the way,
regress
that's
your
a
way
good
back
point.
so you can actually find movements that they can accomplish, and it keeps chipping away at that overall goal where it's like you can deconstruct that. You could place in front of them ways that they could see progress and they could see levels of improvement in their mobility.
Yeah.
And so, it's not something we just remove that fact that you'll never be able to do a squat again. This is a challenge that we're going to keep chipping away.
And by the way, sometimes you never get a client to be able to squat. I mean, I had clients that hired me when they were 60, and my goal was to get them to be able to do squat. And 5 years later, we've made tremendous progress.
Yeah.
But we still can't.
You can't squat.
And just
we're
to give
still
you,
working on it though.
Yeah, and we're still working on it because it's the working towards that. You provide them with so much benefits and mobility, pain, strength,
All of it.
everything.
Okay, are crunches a waste of time?
No,
You don't think so?
no. Why would they be a waste of time?
Because another big myth that because crunches, you're basically can be using your neck, you're not using your entire core, blah blah blah. I'm asking you, you're the exceptional trainer.
No, it's an exercise. I mean, you're working spinal flexion. You're getting mainly the abdominals.
Was
to
a
do the
plank
movement.
better or like
A plank is a different movement. They're both
So
good.
it's just isometric
A plank is an
contraction.
isometric contraction.
I mean,
A crunch
here's
is
a
function.
like, again, it depends.
Well, yeah, it depends.
So what happens
My
is
Right.
big, huge
so
friend,
a lot
I
of
wouldn't
times the
have
person
doing
who's
crunches.
asking about crunches is because they want to have visible abs. And it's like, yeah, you're wasting your time crunching 1,000 times all day to have these visible.
Right, so let me
there's
ask a
better
question.
movement. So it's like, that's how I.
Okay, you're right. So let me ask a better question. How does someone get a six-pack in the most effective way?
All right.
Besides the kitchen.
Okay, so two things. You named one of them. You got to be lean enough. If you're not lean enough, then it doesn't matter. And number
That's
two,
most of it.
And number
Yeah.
two, you have to build your abs.
Yeah.
You have to build.
It's a muscle.
It's like your biceps or your lats or your quads. Like if you get them to build, they're going to be more visible. So doing 100 reps is not going to build your abs. Just like 100 reps in my biceps curls aren't going to build my biceps. You have to get them strong. So do things in the 8 to 12 rep range with good control, with good contraction, full extension, where you're developing the muscles of your abs. And then as they develop, you'll see them.
We'll talk about the hip flexor deactivation because this is a
Yeah.
common problem a lot of people face when they're crunching. And so, Sal did a really good video about this, but there's a way to do that without, overemphasizing your hip flexors, which a lot of times, that can create back problems and have its own issues in itself. But once you figure out how to do that, squeeze your glutes, get that more involved, a little bit of a lift. Sometimes you lift your legs up on a step, and you're able to crunch and really kind of take that sternum to the belly button and crunch, with a very specific technique for that, you get more activation.
Yeah, so
like
a lot of people confuse forward flexion with I'm working my abs, but I can bend forward at the hips or I can bend forward at the lumbar spine.
Mm-hmm.
So lumbar spine is abs, hips is hip flexors. So you see people do leg raises, but their tailbone isn't tucking and curving up. That's abs. So they're just lifting their legs. That's hip flexors. So you see a lot of people do ab exercise, but really what they're doing are
neck exercises.
neck
Yeah.
hip flexor exercise.
Yeah.
So the thing with core
Technique
training
is definitely part of it.
with every exercise, technique is
The most important and the what makes Sal or Justin super trainers is that what they would do with a client, because I'd say
Not you?
No, I mean I would too. They're the better
He's
trainers.
being humble.
Yeah, they're the better trainers. Is that at least I can't recall ever a client who hired me who ever trained 5 to 6 reps of abs. Everybody does abs 15, 20, 30 circuit. So they know that. I know that. So one of the most powerful things you can do is to get somebody to do heavy loaded ab exercises. If you want to build your abs better than you've ever built them before, I would guess 90% or more people listening to this podcast right now haven't trained them that way. You'll see the greatest benefit from that right there.
Wow.
So and it's not that crunches and high reps don't have value. It's just that that's what everybody does.
Yeah.
Everybody defaults to high rep, neck exercise, or hip flexor getting involved versus like, yeah, well, I bet if I took that person and did 5 controlled full lever sit-ups where they held a 10-pound plate, I would blow their abs up. Just blow because
people can't do that.
No, they can't.
No, they're not training for that. Like you said, I think it's because we are so conditioned to doing these group classes, like at F45 or all these gyms where you're just like doing, like you're going through the motions, like what we've always done. So do you think that a lot of these group classes, not all, but a lot, like the F45s and the
Garbage.
Orange Theory
Problematic.
are just like a waste of time?
Garbage. I don't know if I wouldn't say waste of time.
Remember all the heat? I remember all the heat I got back.
It's
in the
one
days.
step off the couch, right? As they say.
Is
I
that
wouldn't
what
say
it
it's
is?
a waste of time, but the exercises, the exercises in those classes are you could just trade them out with whatever exercise. It's just moving. They're just getting you to move.
It's just moving.
Here's what I tell.
I think that's a good
Here's
way
what
of
I tell
putting
my
it.
clients that ask about Orange Theory and F45. If you're going there to make change to your body, it's a terrible idea. If you're already happy with your fitness level and you love the community and you enjoy the class and you're not trying to make any change to your physique,
You're having fun.
it's awesome.
Yeah.
See,
Because if you're not trying to make change and you're because you're going to burn some calories and you're going to expend some energy, and that in itself has value. But if you're showing up there in hopes that you're going to build a body that you want that you don't currently have, it's a horrible approach.
Adam, you forgot it depends, first of all. But it's true, right? Like, I think that's a great example. That's a great explanation. If you just want to like move your body and see some people that you like to see and socialize with, it's great.
Sure.
But for body competition, those classes do. By the way, I think not only those classes do nothing for you, they actually do they make you hungrier because it's basically getting you hungry because of the cardio aspect, and then you end up eating more. Therefore, you're probably going to gain weight from doing those.
It also tends to
stress injuries and all kinds of fun stuff.
That's true.
It also tends to attract the wrong person.
That's
too.
right.
It tends to attract the cortisol junkies. So the people that need that adrenaline, that push, and their cortisol is all over the
Just fry
board.
their bodies.
And then they need that hard push just to feel anything, and they think that feedback they're getting is positive when it's really not. So it's like the worst person that should be taking that class.
If
too.
you added up all the wasted monthly fees for those types of classes, all the wasted money on supplements, that basically supplements will do. If you get the best supplements, will do like 2%.
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Okay. The best supplements will do 2%.
I'm so glad you said
all
that.
the wasted money on, all the diet stuff, and you just took a fraction of that and invested it in a good trainer, the dividends would blow you away.
I believe that. I think that, I'm a great example, right? I used to do all those classes all the time because I thought, okay, like that's what we all did back in the day, right? Like, I was going to go do this class. I was doing Barry's boot camps, and I was doing, and I was dying. And all I really got from any of that is like a bad ankle, a bad knee, like so many stress fractures, and an appetite that was like through the roof that I ended up actually like eating 4 times more and gaining weight and gaining body fat.
Well, I would guess. I mean, I'd love to hear from you. What your journey was like. I bet you work out less and you're older and you have a better body today. Probably because you strength train.
I do a lot of strength training.
Yeah.
I have to say, like, I think that whenever I do too much cardio, whenever I do too much intense cardio, I end up gaining weight because of the amount of food I eat.
Yeah.
Like, I eat just an enormous amount of calories just because I'm so ravenous.
Yeah.
But when I do more like low kind of like very slow cardio or
good
just
for
like
health.
walking, and then I'm doing
Recuperative.
hardcore weights, I always look better.
That's right.
I always look better. And I will tell you another myth, and I want to ask you guys about this because I realized this like just recently. So, like the walking vest has become like the hugest trend, right? Every like Tom, Dick, and Harry and Molly are wearing these vests, and I was one of them, and I was a huge advocate for them. What I started to notice was my foot like started to really hurt, and my
plantar
ankle,
fasciitis.
I started to get really bad plantar fasciitis. My ankle was hurting me, and I went to this place, this wellness facility. Actually, it's called Sensei. Have you ever been there? Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's this thing. It's called the Sensei Resort, and the guy I met this guy there who was a trainer. And he was asking me all these questions. And when I told him about the weighted vest, he's like, you shouldn't be wearing that. And he was so scientific as to what it does. And that was like kind of the culprit to all of my injuries, where I realized that this weighted vest, this whole phenomenon is actually maybe detrimental and not a positive thing.
There's zero additional benefit. The only people that get value from training with a weighted vest,
firemen and military.
Yeah, people who are training to be able to wear something that's weighted. In other words, you're going to go rucking.
Yeah, this rucking, this is a phenomenon.
That's fine. If you want to get good at rucking, you probably should practice rucking, right? You want to get good. You want to be good at like as a firefighter. You're going to have to carry gear. You probably should do some training wearing gear. But if you want to get fit and you're walking, don't wear a weighted vest. All it does is it throws off. Most people can walk. Yeah. Relatively well without creating problems. Okay, so long as they train within or walk within their fitness level, they're probably not going to hurt themselves. It's one of the few things we could do still pretty well as humans is walk. Thankfully, we're not in Wally World yet. You throw a weighted vest on somebody, and it throws everything off just enough to cause problems, and that's what's going to. And it doesn't give you. Doesn't burn this crazy amount of extra calories.
This phenomenon came from a study that was done recently. Yeah. And our friend Shalene Johnson is one of the advocates for the weighted vest because she read this study. And this is the problem with studies.
Yeah, she's a huge advocate for the weighted vest.
Because there was a study, I can't remember what the study said.
Bone density.
Bone density. It says it increases your bone density. Right. By the way, it was Shalene that got me into the weighted vest.
Yeah, because of course, she did it, and then she saw these positive benefits that happened from it, therefore she tested it. I mean, what one of us would tell you is like,
go lift weights.
Go lift weights, and that person would get all those benefits and some.
Well, you're going to get
more benefits.
Because I believe it, what it does, the weighted vest just throws your body off just enough where it tweaks your body slowly so you don't even know it's the weighted vest.
Well, listen, most of us are not symmetrical and don't walk perfectly already as it is. And adding weight to that, it's just like somebody who's obese. Why they have all these other chronic issues and pains that come up from it is because they're carrying this extra weight on their body and they don't walk very good.
Their joints feel the impact.
So it's not helping them to add weight to your vest.
It changes your recruitment patterns.
It's not just Shalene, because all these menopause doctors, all these hormone doctors now are walking around with these vests.
It's low-hanging fruit.
It's low-hanging
It's fruit. Like, I can, because I understand from the doc, right? I'm a doctor.
They want to simplify everything. Yeah.
And I know that 80% of people are not going to strength train 3 times a week. So what I can tell this client who has got borderline osteoporosis right now is, I just want you to walk it. When you do your walk that you already do every day, wear a vest. Mm-hmm. And that alone, the study shows how beneficial that would be. And so it's low-hanging fruit.
Yeah, it's annoying though. It's stupid because they're all ignoring the studies that show the absolute superior. The reason why a weighted vest will add some bone density is because of the weight, the resistance. You know what does that way better? Strength training. Way better. Way better.
Well,
do way less work with strength training and you'll get more bone density.
That's the problem is that the doctors aren't doing this. What they should be doing, even the ones that even recommend the vest, is they should be saying that in a perfect world, this is what you do. Nothing is going to reverse this better than strength training a couple times a week. This is what I do. At the bare minimum, if you can't do that, then you do this. That's what's happening.
But what I'm saying is, even at the bare minimum, it's probably not a good idea to wear the weighted vest because of what it does, especially with middle-aged women. So, which is interesting, is because right now the rage is with middle-aged women wearing these weighted vests, and the fact, and they're saying because then you're like you said, you're getting more bang for your buck, you're burning more calories, you're adding resistance to what you're already doing, so you're intensifying your workouts, but then you're more prone to the plantar fasciitis, the knee problems, the hip problems. Mm-hmm. The only person besides that man I met at this wellness place is Stacy Sims. Do you know who she is?
Yep.
Who was saying to me when I was asking her on my podcast, I was saying, like, what do you think of these vests too? She's like, it's way better to just hold 2 heavy weights and walk with these heavy weights, like kind of like farmer walks even, because at least it's balanced. Because what you're doing with these weighted vests is like it's pushing down on your shoulders, right? Compressing your body, number one, right? It's not doing anyone any favors, right? Especially if you're not a fit person.
Just walk. You don't need to put anything
just
on.
walk.
You don't need to hold a dumbbell. And when you strength train. Look, here's another reason why they're causing problems.
Yeah.
Is when people walk with a weighted vest, what they're doing is they're walking to fatigue. Okay. They're walking till they get tired. Okay. Fatigue breaks form down. Proper strength training is about technique and form. And what we always communicate.
Rest periods.
We always communicate rest periods, and you train with perfect technique and practice the lifts. I don't want you lifting. So in other words, I'm not doing squats to hammer my legs. I'm doing squats to get good at squats. That's what gets you good results. If I go into to hammer my legs, my technique's gonna be off just enough to cause problems.
Yeah.
It's just a means to an end.
To support what Stacy Sims is saying is that, like, when we teach a farmer walk, part of teaching a proper farmer walk is the posture and the way you walk. Like, we put emphasis on
reinforces
the way you step. It's not just like grab this and go walk forward. It's like, no, chest up high, shoulders back and down. Tuck your chin, walk, and then carry the weight. And that is incredibly valuable because you're also working on your posture, your core stability, and you're building strength. Whereas you just throw a vest on somebody who's got their headphones on or is gabbing on the phone or their posture is shit. Rounded shoulders, and then now you're pulling this weight on top of your...
Well, that's my exactly. Yeah. So then then you have all these other ailments that are happening. So this is the problem with social media, though, right? Because you see one person doing it,
crazy,
and then it spreads like rapid fire, and now you see every middle-aged, anyone over the age of 40, they're wearing a weighted vest. Like while they're just talking, like walking, they're wearing them to work. They're doing it at their desk. They're wearing it around their house. And I'm one of those Nimrods that was joining the group. And like until I had my own injuries.
You should just always ask us. I don't know why you're doing
I know.
Slightly better than the waist trainer.
Just send me a text. Hey, what do you think of this
I know.
trend?
I really honestly should. I have another one for you. And this might be controversial, right? Because it's another huge thing, and I know we just a little bit talked about it, was protein. Yeah. Right? Do you think people are overdoing it now with protein? Because all you hear about is protein, eat more protein. I went to this show at Expo West, Adam, you were there, and literally every product I saw was just infused with protein. I'm talking protein pretzels, protein hot dog, protein shoes. Like wherever someone can stuff protein, they're just...
It's because of it's the demand for it now, because we're more aware than we've ever been on how important it is to get these upper limits, and the majority of people don't. So now all these companies are smart and they're infusing all these carb treats with protein, so they're more desirable, they're more marketable.
Here's the deal.
But most people under-eat protein.
Here's the deal, okay? Don't eat heavily processed foods. Do you know what falls under that category? Protein pretzels, protein muffins, protein crackers.
All that stuff is crap.
But
protein in general.
Protein from whole natural foods, eat it first, prioritize it. It helps burn more body fat, build more muscle. It improves satiety, improves insulin sensitivity. It's for most people, generally, not everybody, for most people, it's beneficial. Getting it in a bunch of supplements is a distant second place. And if you're getting it from a lot of these processed products,
and good luck overeating it if you do it through Whole Foods.
No. So basically,
it's a regulator.
Right. So eating whole food protein stuff. But what I guess my question really is, I know protein is obviously very important, but are we undervaluing other things like fiber? Because everyone's emphasizing protein, they're not emphasizing fiber or other micronutrients that are super important.
Well, I think they're undervaluing what Sal said, which is just eating whole foods.
Yeah, like you get everything.
You get all those. Like that's the beauty of that's why one of our favorite pieces of advice to tell somebody is, don't track, don't weigh, don't just eat whole foods. We'll tell clients a lot of times when they call in, they have all these questions about what to do, and we hear them out. And it's like, I could tell this person 100 different things to do, but I bet you if I could just get them to eat whole foods for 30 days, I'll blow their mind. Yeah. Like that right there will solve so many of these other issues that you're overcomplicating and thinking. So I think that's what's undervalued. I think it's undervalued. We're in this convenience of, packaged food and infusing protein.
Here's what happens.
Just eat whole foods.
And what happens is we learn the value of something and then predictably...
They distort it with marketing.
Yes. And predictably what happens is companies come out with processed versions of it. So it's like, fiber's good for you. True. Fiber is very good for you. But what ends up following is high fiber cereal, high fiber
Fortified
crackers.
with fiber.
Everything's
and
fortified
all
with
these
fiber, right?
minerals.
This nutrient is good for you. Cool. Now they're, throwing it in everything. So protein good for you, whole natural foods. Protein from supplements, a distant second. What would I pick if I had to pick a supplement for protein? A pure protein powder.
Yeah.
I'm not giving my clients protein pretzels to hit their protein targets.
No.
That's just a snack.
It's a better trend than low
it's a junk
fat.
food, basically, what I look at it as. I'd rather just eat a chocolate bar and just know it's chocolate.
I mean, when you look at a protein bar, I remember the first
Yeah.
time as a young trainer when I first did this, and I flipped around a Snickers bar and I flipped around my, my nutrition or my
King-size Snickers,
protein
same.
bar. The only difference is the protein bar has 10 more grams of protein. I mean, everything else, the sugar, the fat,
Exactly the same.
everything else is the same.
Right,
I mean,
but
it's really a Snickers bar with some protein in it. That's-
Exactly. So you might as well just eat the chocolate bar and just call it for what it is, and not trick yourself into thinking you're doing something healthy.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, I got to run to the airport, you
Yeah, you
guys.
do.
I just saw, I have so many more questions, but you guys are coming back to LA, right?
Yeah, I
Maybe
think so.
not you,
Yeah.
Justin, because I don't really speak with you as often,
It's fine.
but we should make more of a habit
we'll
of
work
maybe.
on
You
that.
got to have them
Jen.
talk about working kids out.
I
That's
was
a
gonna
great
say,
podcast.
I want to do that because I just looked at I was going to start and then I realized it's 3:15 and I got to be at the airport.
Yeah, we're gonna
Yeah.
get you
Can we
Get
do
out
it
of here.
again?
on your flight.
Yes.
I'll come back.
Okay.
All right.
Okay.
We love
All
you.
right.
Always.
I
We always
love
say
it.
yes.
No, seriously, I definitely, because you gave me some great information about the core. Like, you do know your stuff. I've never heard you speak
It's
about
all
it
right.
before.
Yeah, there's a lot here. We'll unpack it. one of
Okay,
these
good.
days.
No, I would like that.
Yeah.
I mean, I just remember you with the be bold every time I saw you.
He's not just a pretty face.
Yeah.
Not at all.
Yeah.
Not at all. Okay, guys, thank you for being on my podcast in your studio, and we're going to do this again next time soon. So thanks.